I don't like this game. I don't like it. But before you pull out your pitchforks, it's not to say that I'm not recommending it. Let me explain. I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I can be able to play video games if I'm blind, if you take a look at the video here or click the link in the description down below, you can see exactly what I see when I'm playing video games. All right, I know that was sort of a shocker of a title, but let me explain a little bit. And I'm talking about High on Life 2 by Squanch Games. I did not play the original High on Life. At least, I mean, I've seen a bunch of clips of it. I've seen how it plays. I even seen what accessibility it had, but I didn't play it. And so when I got the review code for High on Life 2, I was skeptical at first because I wasn't sure if this was going to be something that I was going to enjoy, mostly because of the accessibility. But when I jumped into it, yes, there actually was some accessibility, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the game itself, while I enjoy a good first-person shooter, and I enjoy some of the comedy in this, I realize I'm just not having fun with the game. But that does not mean that this game isn't for somebody, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't play it because I am an avatar of the YouTube reviewer saying this game sucks and you shouldn't play it. What made me rethink of how I wanted to approach this, it was a clip that I remembered from a movie called Star Trek Generations. You know Star Trek, you might know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, there's a character named Data who is an android, has no emotions throughout the entire run of the series of Star Trek The Next Generation. And he, in this movie, inserts an emotion chip that allows him to be able to experience emotions for the first time. He goes to 10 Forward, which is the kind of bar on the Enterprise, and he gets asked by Guinan, who's the bartender, played by Whoopi Goldberg, if you recognize her. And he, and this exchange happens.
Ooh. Well, it looks like he hates it.
Yes, that is it. I hate this.
Data, I think the chip is working.
Oh, yes. I hate this. It is revolting.
More?
Please.
Now, I know that scene is played up for laughs. Obviously, Brent Spiner, as an actor, has great comedic timing, and Whoopi Goldberg is a trained comedian. So this moment in this scene is totally played up as a joke. But I think there's actually something to kind of be learned from it that kind of equates to the video game industry right now. But before I get into that, let's talk about the accessibility of the game and then my general thoughts on High on Life 2. You can actually limit the enemy and gun chatter from frequent to even completely off, which I find actually interesting because part of the game is that the guns talk to you all the time, and also the enemies talk to you all the time. And if you just don't like that, if you just don't want it, it's too distracting or too annoying, you can turn that off. That's, I think, is actually a pretty cool cognitive accessibility thing. You can change the FOV, you can change the field of view, which is awesome. You can see they have speaker indicators for subtitles. You can even enable the subtitles there. You can change the subtitle text size up into a factor of 10, I think. Factor of 10. And you can increase the UI text size to this size, which by a factor of 10, which is great. This is a great text size. You can even change the text for the subtitles. They have a sort of a stylized kind of sci-fi text, but you can change it to, it's a little bit more legible, and it basically helps for those who maybe have dyslexia or just have trouble reading the subtitles. You can have a more sans serif type font, which basically makes it easier for you to be able to see. I like that. You can be able to change even the camera motion. You can change the HUD drift. You can change the color correction. Unfortunately, they are filters. So again, developers, I say this again, do not put colorblind filters. They only simulate color blindness. They don't actually solve color blindness. If you want to have color blindness settings, allow the players to be able to change specific colors. Anyway, you also, one of the things I really loved was the aim assist options. You have the you have aim assist options for correction strength, tracking strength, pull strength, and friction strength, which you can be able to set to a factor of 999. So it gives you such a granular adjustments for aim assist. It's the only aim assist when I had it at full at 999 for all 4 of these options. It actually allowed me to, normally when you go into a shooter, usually aim assist is kind of tied to ADS, which is basically your zoom mode on your controller, or on your whenever you're using a gun. And you're usually having to be able to hold or tap onto that button every single time in order to be able to lock on to an enemy. Or sometimes the camera will just kind of automatically sort of shift to enemy, and you still have to kind of use ADS sometimes to kind of aim and to aim a little bit better. In this game, because you are on a skateboard, which I'll get to in a second, but because you also with aim assist on, I was actually able to, without really aiming, I could aim direct, indirectly, or aim sort of close to an enemy. It will automatically lock on. It doesn't feel super magnetic, where it's just so it just kind of jolts across the screen in order to be able to kind of lock on to an enemy. It kind of just basically just moves the bullets in a way, or moves your kind of gun gently towards an enemy. And I never had to use ADS once. I could keep shooting a gun, and it will just, as long as I'm aiming towards a specific enemy, it will essentially lock on. And I find that actually helps out better when you're using stuff like the skateboard, which is a big part of the game, because they change basically your sprint option to you're riding a skateboard, and you can, if you're a fan of Tony Hawk, you basically or any skateboarding game, you basically can grind on rails. They literally kind of set up the worlds and the levels where you have the capability of skating around. It's kind of like your own little mini skate park for every level, and for every even the hub world is just designed to be an area where you can just go and skate around. And I actually kind of like that. I wasn't great at skating, I will admit. It's not necessarily I will say I wish there was a little bit more accessibility to kind of be kind of almost like an aim assist to kind of at least feel like that, because I didn't feel like I got into a flow with the skateboard and also the shooting as well. I think maybe over time I probably could have fixed that, but it didn't feel natural 100% of the time. Sometimes it did, and it felt great. When it works and you're grinding on a rail and you're shooting at enemies, it's the most funnest way to be able to play this game. But when there are times where you just when the rail kind of ends or stops, or you run out of space to be able to sprint or use your skateboard, it's kind of hard to get back into that flow again. And I find that at times to be frustrating. And there, unfortunately as well, there is no remapping for controllers, at least as of this recording. But there may be a patch feature later on. I don't know. You can remap on mouse and keyboard, but that's about it. For motor disabled players, again, I think finding the flow of riding the skateboard and shooting might be a bit rough, but I think that there are at least a few settings to be able to kind of help adjust for that comfortability. Unfortunately, totally blind players, there's no screen reader, there's no navigational assistance. Basically, the only thing I could probably recommend is for the lower vision side of the spectrum, you could have the subtitle and HUD text size be large, and also the aim assist can help for pretty much everybody on the blindness spectrum. But that's basically about it. So that's about the accessibility. With a statement like I don't like this game, I should probably at least explain why. Minus accessibility, which I just talked about. I don't like the game because it felt kind of boring to me, personally. You're going from mission to mission. You grab a bounty and you're going after that bounty, and things happen throughout that just you have to try to get through in order to be able to get to the boss. They do make big swings as far as different things that they try to do, including kind of subverting a few things that we have never seen in video games before. There's one point where the boss is going through the literal settings of the game and is trying to hide in the settings, and you're trying to find them and take them out. I was afraid to kind of do it because I was afraid if I take out one of the settings, it might ruin the game for me. But it's literally just a menu on top of it, so it doesn't actually affect the settings for this game. But I found it frustrating because it's more like trying to target the boss that I just didn't like or just couldn't be able to get through. There is some interesting kind of gameplay things that they sort of mess with, and I think, hey, that's great. Developers felt like that they were able to do that. It didn't click with me though. I don't know. I just found that the thing I enjoyed the most was probably the skateboarding and the shooting, and that's kind of really it. Everything else beyond that, it just didn't really hit with me. There's a ton of jokes in there that, you know, that some landed, some didn't, but to each their own essentially. And I say all that, and again, that's my own personal opinion about this. That should not dissuade you from trying to be able to play this game. All right, now going back to the Data scene from Star Trek Generations. When you watch that scene, Data, you could see the joy in his face when he realizes that he hates the drink that he's drinking. Data, being like an android and experiencing emotions for the first time, he doesn't know how to articulate or how to be able to even react appropriately of why he hates that particular drink. All he can know to say is that he recognizes that when Guinan says he looks like he hates it, he has that realization. Yes, I hate this. It is revolting. And then the joke of playing up, you want more? And he goes, please. Like, he wants more of this drink, even though he hates it. I think that there's something to be learned from sort of Data's naivete when it comes to this. Because normally when you hate something, you basically just like don't want to ever see it again, or you don't ever want to be able to play a game like that again. Now, I don't want to say that you need to keep playing a game that you hate just to torture yourself for that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying what the lesson I'm learning from this is that when Data says he wants more, I equate that to be like in the video game side that while he hates, or while I, and even equate it to me, while I hate High on Life 2, I want more games like High on Life 2 to exist. I want more experiments like High on Life 2, because High on Life 2 is a giant experiment. It's a different take on the shooter genre, and it's creating like in a way a new genre of a comedic first-person shooter. We had versions of a comedic first-person shooter, but this is a true comedy that is also a shooter. And the first one, it kind of hit and missed in certain areas, and they at least enough to be able to, like, for the developers to be able to make a second one. Now, granted, I am not necessarily again a Rick and Morty fan, but I think that this game should exist because there are people who are Rick and Morty fans, who like this kind of humor, who like this kind of gameplay. So I want more developers, I want Squatch Games to continue to make High on Life 3, 4, 5, however many High on Lives they want to be able to create, or move on to a different type of game altogether. I want more developers to be able to make experiments. I want more developers to take risks, and I want more studios to allow their devs to take more risks with games. Because while there is going to be always a certain amount of people, a certain amount of reviewers, rage bait reviewers on YouTube that are going to just hate on every single game that comes out there, and that might discourage developers from wanting to be able to make games. I want to basically put out there, we need a different mind shift when it comes to these kind of games. If you don't like the game, that's fine. But the idea of just trying to be able to like convince people that they should not play this game is the wrong mentality to take. A case in point, there's an example of years ago. I went to GameStop to be able to buy a game that I was looking forward to getting, and it just came out. And the person who behind the counter was basically spent the next 15 minutes to try to convince me to not buy this game. He says it's terrible, the reviews on it are bad, they promised this and that, and they didn't give you this and that. And he was really actively trying to get me to not spend money on this game. Now, granted, he thinks he was trying to do me a favor, trying not to waste my money on a game that he thinks that I should not enjoy. I still bought the game. You know what that game was? No Man's Sky. Yes, granted, at the beginning of when this game came out, didn't have everything that they wanted to. But look at the game now. It is one of the best comebacks in video game history because the developers took a risk and they kept at it, they kept making it, and now this game is better, way better than it was when it launched. And I still think back about that GameStop employee and how many more people are like that out there, that they think that they're doing a favor for people, that when they say that they hate a game, they're trying to convince people not to buy it because they think that they're saving them from a poor game. But if there's a game that you like, that you have some interest in, you shouldn't be dissuaded by reviewers, even like myself. Now, granted, accessibility is a whole other different thing, and I can at least be able to give my honest, objective feedback about a game's accessibility. That's a different thing altogether. But when it comes to a review based on people's likes and tastes, and if they don't like the game, you should not you should not try to shame people or shame people into liking these games. You should allow people to be able to make the decision for themselves. You can give your opinion. There's nothing wrong with giving your negative opinion about a game. I think that's fine. But we need to get away from the mentality of reviewing, of being negative about a game for just the sake of being negative about a game, and also to not convince people to try not to buy it, to not go into the Steam reviews and give a very poor review because you did not like it, or you absolutely hated it, or even barely even played it, and you're just giving a review for the negative review for the sake of doing it, and also going into people's chats and making the streamer feel bad for playing this game. I don't understand why we have that as a mentality in this industry. I will say this as a pledge to you who watch my reviews, who watch my videos. I will always give my honest opinion about accessibility, about what I think about the game, and I will also always try to find a silver lining or a positive side of it, because I want more games to exist. I want more people to take swings at fences. I want more games like High on Life 2 to come out. And my concluding thoughts on this, I don't know what, I honestly am speechless. I really don't know what the solution is. I don't know what we need to do. I'm only going to say from my own perspective, I'm going to try to be able to review as honest as I can, but also if I'm negative about a game, I want to talk about, have a topic like this, where just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. This game should exist. And I'm glad that it exists. I'm happy that it exists. And I'm happy that if people enjoy it and love it, it just didn't hit for me. That's all. And I think we need more folks like that to do it. And there are definitely reviewers that I respect and love in this industry that do offer that. But then there are some that just will be negative about everything. And that needs to stop. That needs to change. Otherwise, developers are going to be afraid to be able to make games. They're going to be afraid to want to be able to continue in this industry. We're going to rely on old nostalgia to keep us going. They're going to rely on safe bets to try to be able to make as much money as they can, as best they can, and try to be able to make the safe options for games. Where when this art form of a medium like video games, we need to be encouraging more original ideas. We need to be encouraging more experiments. We need to be encouraging more developers to make swings for the fences, because if that swing for the fence actually hits and happens, you get games like Expedition 33. You get games like Blueprints. You get games like Hades. They're different than a lot of games that are out there. But when you swing the fence and you hit, it hits hard. And if you swing and you miss, hopefully you can be able to have an opportunity to be able to have another swing again, because it fosters a era of creativity. It fosters an era of evolving this art form that is video games, and I think it evolves us as human beings who like to be able to have fun. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you like this video. I'm sorry that it if it came across as negative or whatever. I don't even know if this even makes sense. I hope it does. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Anyway, take care. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.